owes Madame Blavatsky a great debt of gratitude.
According to Elena Petrovna Blavatsky, the reader can use any language to read Sansa.
The universe has many parts.
Through what is the secret doctrine, though giving out many fundamental tenets from the secret doctrine of the East, raised but a small corner of the dark veil.
Life is progressive, hence the summation, whether you look at it from birth, if you count it as zero, or if you look at your reincarnations and past lives and everything and go into minus infinity, 2 plus infinity.
As a result, we come to the method of expanding consciousness, which develops abstract thinking.
Any exoteric and esoteric understanding can be applied to the planes of being, and thus we can reveal any symbol or concept. Dear friends, Theosophists, we are starting a joint research seminar with Russian and foreign scientists and Theosophists. As you know, Helena Petrovna Blavatsky dedicated her work to all true Theosophists. Many of the comments from the previous seminars were about the desirability of presenting material on the secret doctrine. This season, online seminars will be held in a new format according to the audience's wishes. We're very happy that so many worldly Theosophists and scientists have responded to participate in the seminar on this topic. Dear participants of the seminar, you can write all your questions in this question and answer section, and you will definitely receive answers during the seminar or in person on your email address that you left when registering. Also, after the seminar, based on comments and questions, training material will be prepared with answers and comments from the members of the research group. This video will be published on our Theosophy Foundation YouTube channel, on the website and social networks, and it will be also sent to everyone who has registered on your email address. We ask you to work with us, ask questions, write comments and suggestions through Zoom question-answer function. The seminar is intended for those who are already familiar and have studied the secret doctrine, as well as for everyone interested in Theosophy. Today, we have translators Pavel Malakhov and Olga Isayeva working with us, and we are very grateful to them for their work. We express our recognition, respect, and gratitude to all the members of the research group and speakers. I see many participants joining us. They are the Moscow School of Theosophy, members of the lodges of the Theosophical Society, that is the Light of Truth Lodge, Om Tara Lodge, Blavatsky Lodge, Adamant Lodge, Anahata Lodge, Garuda Lodge, Theosophists and Theosophical community from the cities of the Russian Federation, St. Petersburg, Moscow, Ufa, Kemerovo, Zelenogorsk, Krasnoyarsk, Omsk, Kaliningrad, Saratov, Bisk, Nizhny Novgorod, Voronezh, Yekaterinburg, Chelyabinsk, Belgorod, Sochi, Tambov, Karelia, as well as colleagues from the Ukraine, Moldova, Estonia, Belarus, Latvia, Uzbekistan, Indonesia, the USA, India, England, Brazil, Australia, the Philippines, Greece, Germany, Italy, New Zealand. The seminar is on the secret doctrine is open, and we invite the first speaker, Mr. Glenn Mullin, the member of the Theosophical Society, a teacher of Tibetan Buddhism at the Theosophical Society in America, to present a general research review, Blavatsky, Secret Doctrine, Kalachakra, and Shambhala. The article in full will be published in the popular scientific journal Scientific Vector on the International Theosophical Publishing House, Albatross. So please, Mr. Glenn Mullin, USA, Chicago, you're welcome.
Tajata, Muni Muni, Mahamuni, Yesoha, wisdom, wisdom, great wisdom, so be it. I'd like to begin by extending my gratitude to the organizers of the seminar for inviting me to participate. It's a great honor, a great pleasure. And secondly, to offer my greetings to Theosophists worldwide. HPB was born into a world that we could say stood at the beginning of the end of the colonial period. This was an era in which much of the world was under the iron rule of Western colonial powers. An unfortunate characteristic of the period was a cultural arrogance and narcissism that led to the whole-scale destruction of many of the world's great traditions and scientific legacies. One example is the Spanish destruction of Mayan and Incan civilizations throughout Central and South America. Entire libraries were burned to the ground without even a cursory look at the contents of their many books. The British and French were not much better. Terms often used for non-European people and cultures included pejoratives like savage, barbarian, and pagan. The world owes Madame Blavatsky a great debt of gratitude for the firm and very public stance that she took against this arrogant, egocentric attitude. Her statement that there should be an open-minded inquiry into the deep truths that can be found in every world tradition was a very revolutionary stance. And it launched the movement that today is famed throughout the world as Theosophy. Her slogan became, "There is no religion higher than truth." Russia was not exempt from this spiritual arrogance at the time. Although HPB was Russian by birth, the Theosophical Society officially emerged not in Russia, but in New York, where it was registered by Blavatsky, Olcott, and Judge in 1875. The first lodge to be formally registered was in London, originally established in June of 1878, and then redefined in 1882. A Scottish lodge appeared in 1884, the first Canadian lodge in 1891 in Toronto. Olcott and Judge moved to India in the 1880s and established what came to be known as the international headquarters in Adyar. The opposition which the TS in Russia had encountered from the Russian authorities during its formation in the international community in the 1870s and 1880s once more came into play with Nicholas Roerich and the creation of the Lama Temple in St. Petersburg in the early 1900s. I read through two important books that take an in-depth look at the history of that temple. John Snelling's Buddhism in Russia, the story of Agwan Dorjiev, and Alexander Andreev, Russia and Tibet, the debacle of secret diplomacy. References in Snelling's book to the biography of Hambu Lama Agwan Dorjiev relate numerous complaints from the Lama about the resistance to his work that emanated from the Russian church. Rather quaintly, he refers to the Russian elders as the long hairs, presumably because Buddhist monks traditionally have shaved heads, whereas Russian Orthodox priests often sport long, flowing locks. A second great debt that peoples of the world owe to HPB is rooted in her open statement pointing to the basic fact that all spiritual traditions have two facets to them. The first is the exoteric facet that can be easily understood and integrated by the general populace, usually based on devotion, simple ritual, and a skeletal philosophy. And secondly, an esoteric facet that appeals to and satisfies the spiritual appetite of the more mystically inclined and spiritually dedicated seeker. In Christianity, for example, the former is exemplified by the person who goes to church once a week, perhaps says grace at meals and recites a prayer before going to bed. The latter is exemplified by the Christian who throws himself into an intense study of the doctrines of the essence, such as the Kabbalah. This way of looking at the great traditions of the world allowed for a respectful understanding of some of the foibles and philosophical absurdities that we see in popular forms that spiritual traditions often take among the so-called common folk the world over. A third debt that we owe to HPB comes from her emphasis on the integration of, or at least harmony between, spirituality and science. Europe and the Americas had seen a deep divide between these two aspects of human culture. HPB and Nicholas Roerich after her saw these two as complementary forces in the fulfillment of the human spirit. HPB correctly perceived that this antagonistic standoff between two of the most important spheres of human endeavor was not only frivolous, but futile and counterproductive. A successful and wholesome future of humanity would have to look at the integration of all fields of human activity. This integrative approach is well expressed in the statement of purpose of the Theosophical Society in America, where I've taught almost every year for the past 35 years. Here they state a mission of wholeness that inspires a fellowship united in study, meditation, and service. A mission of encouraging open-minded inquiry into world religions, philosophy, science, and the arts in order to understand the wisdom of the ages, respect the unity of all life, and help people explore spiritual self-transformation. And thirdly, an ethic holding that our every action, feeling, and thought affect all other living beings, that each of us is capable of and responsible for contributing to the benefit of the whole. This same emphasis on the unity of spiritual and civil cultures became the foundation of Nicholas Roerich's work. Finally, a fourth debt is one that is close to my own heart. This comes from HPB's introduction of Tibetan Buddhism to the Western world. I am personally a practitioner of the Gelugpa tradition, or Dalai Lama tradition, descending from Lama Tsongkhapa. Madame Blavatsky was the first European writer and teacher to open windows overlooking this sublime and esoteric tradition. A decade or so ago, I had the honor of leading a group of Theosophists on a pilgrimage into Tibet, an expedition that we called Tibet in the Footsteps of Madame Blavatsky. Our visit to Tashi Lumpo was especially moving because this was a source for much of HPB's inspiration. In my own book on the Kalachakra, I include translations of Gelugpa Tibetan works on Kalachakra. And the main entry in this is a translation of the edited notes taken at an oral teaching given by the first Dalai Lama, 1391 to 1475, in Tashi Lumpo Monastery. As mentioned earlier, HPB's strongest spiritual connection with Tibet comes through her mystical affiliation with Tashi Lumpo. Of interest to Theosophists, this book also contains a translation of the first Panchen Lama's prayer to the complete practice of the Kalachakra path. I will conclude my presentation with fragments from a small poem on the key elements of the Kalachakra practice written in Tashi Lumpo Monastery by the first Panchen Lama, Losang Chökyi Gyaltsen, sometime in the mid-17th century. This might perhaps give a small hint at why both HPB and Nicholas Roerich were such fans of Kalachakra and Shambhala. The poem or prayer is included in my book, The Practice of Kalachakra. From within the sport of play, of profound radiant bliss, united with the wisdom of emptiness or infinity, the mandala of glorious Kalachakra manifests. By meditating upon it, may I delight the enlightened beings and amass a mighty ocean of positive energy and wisdom. May I learn to integrate great bliss inseparable from the emptiness of the four doors of liberation, and thus purify ordinary death, transmigration, and rebirth. The tantric deities of the glorious Kalachakra mandala fill the myriad world systems of the 10 directions, and by means of the magical activities of peace, increase, power, and wrath, they are working even now for our success and enlightenment. Know that this is so. Take joy in that knowledge, and I will sing this auspicious song. The first Panchen Lama, as the Tibetophiles will know, was a guru to both the fourth and the fifth Dalai Lamas. HBB spoke of her deep karmic connection with the string of Panchen Lama incarnations and with Tashi Lumpo Monastery, the seat of the Panchen Lamas, from the time of the composition of this mystical song for more than the 350 years to follow until today. It is interesting to note that Tashi Lumpo had been established by the first Dalai Lama in 1447 and was later given by the fifth Dalai Lama to his guru, the first Panchen Lama, and that the first book in English by the present Dalai Lama to be published in the West was his Opening of the Wisdom Eye, published in 1963 by Quest Books, the publishing wing of the Theosophical Society in America. The Dalai Lama visited the TS in America in 1979, and during his first US tour, and at that time expressed his appreciation to Madame Blavatsky for her work in bringing openness and a spirit of mutual respect toward the world's great traditions. During my many years of training in Dharamsala, I had the opportunity to attend many interviews with the Dalai Lama. On one of these, he said, "The world is at a dangerous crossroads on many fronts: environmental, military, economic, spiritual. In order for it to come through this treacherous situation successfully, all peoples of the world must contribute their best and leave behind their worst. This is a challenge for every human culture today. If all peoples work hard, there will certainly be a positive outcome. If we do not make this effort as a community of brothers and sisters sharing life on this beautiful blue planet, the future of humanity will remain at risk." These words were very much reflect the spiritual and cultural attitudes of both HBB and Nicholas Roerich. In this writer's opinion, the Dalai Lama was referring to the Kalachakra and Shambhala prophecies that human life on Earth is soon to enter a period of either 1,000 years of light or 1,000 years of darkness. And with that, I conclude the précis of my paper, but I offer the prayer that all of us worldwide of every tradition, we dedicate great energy to the fulfillment of the Kalachakra prophecy, so often mentioned by Madame Blavatsky and often mentioned by Nicholas Roerich, that we all work very intensely for the ushering in of the prophesied 1,000 years of light. Thank you so much. Spasiba.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your in-depth research analysis of such a complex topic. About the information about Nicholas Roerich and all this family, especially George Roerich, worked much in this sphere and had many works on this theme. Mr. Mullin, thank you very much for your deep research analysis. And now we invite the next speaker, the member of the Theosophical Society of Greece, candidate of the University of Wales Trinity St. Bevis, Bachelor of Painting at the University of Creative Arts, Director of the European School of Theosophy, Mrs. Erika Georgiades, Greece, Athens. Please, Mrs. Georgiades, you are welcome.
Greetings on behalf of the European School of Theosophy to all of you. I would like also to congratulate the Adamant Lodge for the initiative for organizing these online activities. I was invited by the Adamant Lodge to speak on the proem of the Secret Doctrine. I will briefly speak on the sacred sacerdotal language. I would like also to say that I am preparing a study course on the Secret Doctrine that will be available at the European School of Theosophy 2021. And I will gladly share it with you here. The title of my presentation today is the sacerdotal language, Sensar. In the proem of the Secret Doctrine, Elena Petrovna Blavatsky refers to the esoteric Sensar catechism, also named by her as the occult catechism. Sensar, according to Blavatsky, is the secret language or mystery speech of initiated adepts all over the world. It is a very ancient language and predates Sanskrit. It is a sacerdotal ideographic and symbolic language. There is a definite mode of reading ideographic texts. According to Elena Petrovna Blavatsky, the reader can use any language to read Sensar because it is a language composed of ideographs like the Arabian numerals or figures. And symbols are also of common knowledge among initiated mystics and their followers. Elena Petrovna Blavatsky uses, as an example, some symbols to read that occult sacerdotal language. For instance, in the introduction to The Voice of the Silence, she says that, open quote, the symbols and signs used in astrology, for example, the 12 zodiacal animals, the 7 primary colors, stand for the 33 letters of the simple alphabet for words and sentences. In this method, the 12 animals, 5 times repeated and coupled with the 5 elements and the 5 colors, furnish a whole alphabet composed of 60 sacred letters and 12 signs. HPB is exemplifying how the sacerdotal language Sensar can be understood. Sensar is a non-discursive language based on ideographs and symbols. When Elena Petrovna Blavatsky says this language can be put in different characters, it means that the language can be used in different ways. For instance, there is a way we can use the Tibetan language to understand it. Also the Sanskrit language, also the English language, and also any other language around the world. In her works, she suggests approximations to the languages, to the language of Sanskrit, and uses many symbols linked to it. In the proem of the Secret Doctrine, she also gives an example of symbols used in the Sanskrit language. She says, open quote, an archaic manuscript, a collection of palm leaves made impermeable to water, fire, and air by some specific unknown process, is before the writer's eye. On the first page is an immaculate white disk within a dull black ground. This represents the cosmos in eternity, before the reawakening of a still slumbering energy. She goes on saying, on the following page, the same disk, but with a central point. The point in the immaculate disk, space, and eternity in Pralaya denotes the dawn of differentiation. It is the point in the mundane egg, the germ within the latter, which will become the universe, the all, the boundless periodical cosmos. This germ being latent and active periodically and by turns. She goes on saying, the one circle is divine unity, from which all proceeds, whither all returns. Its circumference, a forcibly limited symbol in view of the limitation of the human mind, indicates the abstract, ever incognizable presence and its plane, the universal soul, although the two are one. Only the face of the disk, being white, and the ground all around black, shows clearly that its plane is the only knowledge, dim and hazy, though it still is. That is attainable by man. It is on this plane that the Manvantaric manifestation begins, for it is in this soul that slumbers during the Pralaya, the divine thought, wherein lies concealed the plan of every future cosmogony and theogony, close quote. Still, in the proem of the Secret Doctrine, she also describes the Sanskrit or occult catechism containing the following questions. What is it that ever is? And the answer is space, the eternal Anupadaka. In stanza 1 of the Secret Doctrine, HPB refers to Anupadaka as the great will. It means parentless, self-generated. She links the notion of Anupadaka to the one of the Dhyan Sohans or Dhyani Buddhas. It is also a term used to refer to human Buddhas, due to the fact that in a Buddha, the Atma Buddhi vehicles are united and they become known as the diamond souls, the Vraja Sattvas. Anupadaka in the Theosophical system is a hierarchy which Blavatsky refers as the mysterious one, the hierarchy of the Anupadaka. In terms of the sacred sacerdotal language, Sanskrit, one of the symbols linked to Anupadaka is the universal egg or the circle within one central point in it. The central point representing Anupadaka. Parentless, self-created, self-generated. In talking about the universe in this condition, the condition that whichever is, Blavatsky refers to the universe in its formless, eternal, or absolute condition before it was fashioned by the builders of the universe. The second question in the occult catechism is, what is it that ever was? And the answer is the germ in the root. The germ is linked to the notion of the universal egg. It is that which is manifest in the Manvantara. As she says, open quote, it is the eternal, undifferentiated atoms of future matter. Is one with space, as infinite as it is indestructible, and as eternal as space itself, close quote. And the following question in the occult catechism is, what is it that is ever coming and going? And the answer is the great breath. The great breath is what Blavatsky refers to as the motion, or in her own words, open quote, as the perpetual motion of the universe in the sense of limitless, ever-present space, close quote. And then the following question in the catechism is, then there are three eternals? And the answer is, no, the three are one. That which ever is one. That which ever was is one. That which is ever being and becoming is also one. And this is space. In this manner, Blavatsky not only shows in the proem of the Secret Doctrine some of the main and most important elements of her work, so to say, the importance of symbols and how symbols form the sacred sacerdotal language, but she also shows how can we understand Sanskrit, or that occult language, by using and interpreting symbols and ideographs. She points out not only the need to try to understand the metaphysics and ethics presented by her in the Secret Doctrine, but most importantly, one of the major layers of her book, the symbols and ideographs. I understand, and this is not, please, this is free translation now, and it's going to be very briefly. I understand that this is a very difficult, perhaps, text to understand in a 15 minutes lecture. And I hope that the major point I wanted to make is that how she teaches us to read Senza throughout her different writings, and that we have to pay attention to the symbols she uses in her work. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank you
very
very much. Thank you. Dear Erika, the material is wonderful.
much.
It
Erika,
is common. It is general and concentrated text about three
nice
great
talking.
propositions.
It is
I
very
think it's
interesting
very
and very
useful for
useful for
everybody.
us. Thank you.
Dear friends, today at the cinema, we welcome Mr. Un-Hak Hwang, Doctor of Philosophy, Professor of Yeonbuk National University and Seoul National University from the South Korea. Mr. Un-Hak Hwang, we will be happy to listen to your speech, please.
Good afternoon. In Korea time, it's 4 o'clock, almost 5 o'clock in the afternoon. My research title is Theosophy, Practice in Physics. Mostly I'm studying using the Doppler Effect. Doppler Effect is developed by Doppler, Austria physicist, in the year of 1842. There are two people two people in figure A1. There are two people, S1, U1. S1 make a sound, and U1 listen to sound. We call the S1 source, U1 observer. So if they are approaching to each other, the frequency of the sound different. For example, S1 make a sound with a frequency 460 hertz, then the U1 listen for 166. So there's only one sound, but the situation is two sounds. So we have to understand the others, the movement. The frequency calculated by the this formula, we call this Doppler effect. If they are approaching together, usually the frequency is increased. So we call this effect blue shift in frequency. In this case, the most important thing is that we never measurement about the measurement about the velocity. Each person approaching, for example, 10 meters per second speed, then the human measurement never possible to detect that velocity. Only thing we can measure is in figure A2. Next figure, it shows that one is stand at rest. Yeah. And then the other one approaching with twice speed, faster. So if then he calculate for 67, it is increased from 466. This is actual. We can listen 466. So human wisdom never detect the real situation. So I call in figure A1, in the point of view of supermaster or divine wisdom or God, I don't know. I'm not sure, but you, everybody, you understand it more than me. A2 is a human point of view. We can detect this case. If we assume this case, we can detect. So we can calculate this Doppler effect equation. So without the help of divine wisdom, we never understand the real things, which is 466 401 and 460 S1. This means the sound 460 means ra sound, like a ra, but one listened ra, something like that. He listened this. For one sound, there are two frequencies. So we have to admit others' opinion every time. Without admit others' situation, others' opinion, there will be always difficulties or problems. For example, another example, if we, two people depart from each other, then the frequency decrease. So we call this redshift in frequencies. Of course, we have to be helped from the divine wisdom to understand this case also. So the name I used, supermaster of the universe, or divine wisdom, or universal God, or God. I use the same meaning because I'm a scientist, because probably you know more a lot than me. I assumed these are have the power and the spirit as well. I simply assumed that, so I used the same meaning and use the same meaning names. So the source made 440 frequency, but observer is in 466. But based on our calculation, our measurement, 467. So this is the important thing about the fact from the Doppler effect. The second figure in A2, we assumed one people at rest and the other people coming twice faster. So this selfishness, this kind of selfishness, this is the someone's point of view, absolute point. This is a kind of the ignorance of God that will be make this misunderstanding and prejudice and discriminations. We always admit others' opinion. This shows that, this science shows that we always admit others' opinion because his situation is different. He has a relative velocity with me. So this Doppler shift gives this fact, and the other one is that we always believe in divine wisdom or whatever, God. I said the supermaster. We need help from the supermaster. Without help, we never understand each other. This is extension of the Doppler shift. There are four people in this case, U1, S1 approaching, U2, S2 approaching. So they have a blue shift, but instead instead that O1, S2, these are departing from each other. So these two people has the red shift. Also, S1, O2 has the red shift. So, for example, one sound of S1, O1 has the higher frequency. O1 listening higher frequency than S1 sound, and O2 listening the lower frequency. So one sound, there are different kind of three voices. Without the help of this God in center, they never understand the situations. They're always struggling without help of God. This is the result of the Doppler shift. Doppler shift gives many things about our spiritual things. So I'm thinking about this starting time of the divine wisdom of God in the cosmos. Blavatsky said in her book, we awakened the gods after a night of universe to the ultimate union of cosmos with its divine source. This statement, there are 2 points. One is what is the one night of universe? This one night of universe may be 100 million years. We know the earthly night. One earthly night is 12 hours or 10 hours only. You know, this is different from our earthly night. So the 9 means, this is my opinion. 9 means the no spirit. Only materials exist before this time. So with the one night, after one night, the universe has the spirit. Before this night, there is no spirit. The other thing is that our universe has many gods, actually. This is the more important point, because the next thing, the history of our cosmos, you know, the early period, there was a Big Bang. This is the physicist point of view. You know, the Big Bang theory, there are a lot of people, physicists, research, studied about these things. For example, Stephen Hawking studied about this. The Big Bang happened by the gravitational force. This is the point of the Stephen Hawking. There is no spirit at this stage. Only is under the chaos. And then Blavatsky said that after one night of universe, the universe has the spirit. So after the second stage, after Big Bang, from the saying the reunion of the spirit, Blavatsky mentioned. So this is the second stage, and it goes on to today. This is the important because we have a great debate today. You know, one of the great debate in human society is the debate between the theory of evolution and the creationism. You know, this great debate in schools, many, you know, nations. So Blavatsky provide, you know, a kind of harmony between these debates. So Blavatsky theory provides the both of them. She gave us the harmony of the debate. Thank you very much. That's all my talking. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your interest on material, which caused, I think, much interest and questions. Dear friends, a very interesting material has the international speaker of the Theosophical Society of India, U.S. Pandey. Please, Mr. Pandey, you are welcome.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I offer my greetings and compliments to the Admin Lodge of Moscow for organizing this very important seminar on the original source of the Theosophical teachings, the Secret Doctrine, the great work of the Blavatsky. So with this, I cover a few points about overview of the Secret Doctrine. As you know, this is the greatest work of the Blavatsky, which is called Magnum Opus and published in 1888. The second book first was the Isis Unveiled, which was published in 1877. It has got two massive volumes. In the volume one, there is a long historical introduction by Boris Digerhoff. Only 2 points I will make of that to show the importance of the work. There he quotes Dr. Herbert Simondon, who considered the Secret Doctrine to be work of utmost importance, actually containing the sacred wisdom of the sages of all times. He had found in its pages the keys which could solve the riddles of existence as well as of the macrocosm as of the microcosm. Then the historical introduction contains a lot of information regarding efforts involved and the various correspondence with various peoples, certain controversies, and all those things are there. Many people were questioning the authenticity of the author because Blavatsky has already said that material is given by the masters. So masters had to write themselves 2 letters certifying that they are really the brain or the source behind the knowledge and wisdom given in the book. The reference to the 2 letters from the masters are given, one from Master M, saying that the Secret Doctrine was dictated to Upasika, partly by himself and partly by his brother KH. Upasika means Blavatsky. The second letter from Master KH says, the Secret Doctrine, when ready, would be a triple production of M, Upasika, and himself. So it is very clear that this whole work is from the masters themselves. Of course, Blavatsky has played a very significant role in interpreting their teachings, in putting their proper words, language, so that it may be presentable manner. Now, the subtitle of the book is The Synthesis of the Science, Religion, and Philosophy. And below this one, there is a motto of society, both in the Sanskrit, Satyam Nasti Parodharma, with the English translation, there no religion higher than truth. This subtitle and motto are very significant in indicating the nature of this great work. As we all know, the book has got 2 volumes. First is Cosmogenesis, and second is Anthropogenesis, and third is Index and Bibliography. Each of the main 2 volumes has 3 parts. First part contains stanzas from the book of Xian and commentaries thereon. The second part of each volume deals with 2 symbolic language of ideas, pictures, and myths, and the influences on past civilizations and the culture. The third part, science, and the secret doctrine contrasted is devoted to comparison and criticism along the lines of science so as to connect the ancient wisdom to the modern mind to grasp it at least partially. Blavatsky has dedicated this book to all the true theosophists in every country and of every race, for they called it forth, and for them it was recorded. This dedication clearly indicates universal applicability of this vast and the deep knowledge provided in the book. Preface and introductory by the author are given before proem and further matter of volume 2. Proem itself provides a great and profound wisdom teaching considering evolution, symbolic form, Parabrahman, Mood Prakriti, Hwang, and all that things. It's a very important section of the whole book. Volume 2, Anthropogenesis of the book, begins with the preliminary notes in which 3 new propositions are given, which stand in direct antagonism to modern science as well as to the current religious dogmas. The volume ends with the prologue to esoteric truth and the motto that no religion had no truth. SPB wrote in the introductory that in the 20th century of our era, the scholars would begin to recognize that secret doctrine had neither been invented nor exaggerated, but on the contrary, simply outlined, and finally that the teachings antedate Vedas. That the material given in these teachings is pre-Vedic period. And therefore, secret doctrine was rightly called at that time the textbook of 20th century. But if we see that even now, still humanity has not been able to grasp the full content of the book. So this book is relevant to the present century as well as coming next many centuries. One very special feature is that Blavatsky clearly says at one place she's not the author, she's a writer, but again she says she's a merely humble recorder, which clearly shows that she is very in a humbleness. She is saying that the work is given by the teachers and she's only recording. In the last portion of the proem, a recorder mentioned in the note that this work is when written for the instruction of the student of occultism, but she adds that even for general public, it is open and they can treat it as a fairy tale if they like, or at best as one of the yet unproven speculations of dreamers, or at the worst as an additional hypothesis to many other hypotheses of past, present, and those lingering in the science, and many of them dead, many of them revived. And she concludes, in any sense, even if we treat it as hypothesis, this is not worse than any of the scientific hypotheses. And in every case, it is more philosophical and probable. 2 volumes of the Secret Doctrine, though giving out many fundamental tenets from the whole, from the total secret doctrine of the East, raise but a small corner of the dark veil. In pursuing our study, then we should remember that we are contacting only a very small part of the mighty whole. That part was deemed by masters, the great teachers of the Blavatsky, to suit the present humanity. So this secret doctrine being small part of the whole secret doctrine, which is eternal, ancient, constant, and consistent teachings. To understand its content, to discover the impulses, we have to go through the structure of the book, method of importing knowledge, and all those things. Regarding synthesis of science religion and philosophy, I'd like to make 2 points. In preface, Blavatsky says, what is now attempted is to gather the oldest tenets together and make of them one harmonious and unbroken whole. Further, it says the secret doctrine is the essence of all religions. It does not belong to any particular religion, but its essence of all religions is sprung from it in their origin. The various religious schemes are now made to merge back into their original element, out of which every mystery and dogma has grown, developed, and become materialized. In introductory say, this is just like cutting the flowers and putting them in a garland, nosegays, he says. But this synthesis is not an ordinary sense of accumulating facts and mixing all this together. It is the unification, or rather integration, of the knowledge obtained by the use of senses, physical, superphysical, and their power of observation.
By the experience of the soul consciousness in its capacity of a perceiver of phenomena, a silent witness of the panorama of manifestation, and by deductions and inferences which the mental processes of reason and intuition imply. The propositions of science, religion and philosophy brought together in the system of synthesis seen in the secret doctrine, do not clash with each other, but on the other hand blend together in a harmonious whole. Also the science, certain scientific facts and discoveries, is discussed in light of religion, scriptural narrations, and philosophy. Religion, religious symbols and allegories, is explained in light of science and philosophy is explained in the light of religion and science. Thus an integrated understanding of all these 3 main aspects of human knowledge emerges. Further, this synthesis is arrived not by the method of putting details together, but it proceeds from universals to particulars. Parts do not lead to whole, the whole reveals parts. From the principles and fundamentals, applications are made and details are derived. At times both induction and deduction, which complement each other, are employed for fuller understanding and grasping the tenets of the secret doctrine. The secret doctrine also holds the doctrine of analogy and correspondences. Analogy is the guiding law in nature, the only true Ariadne's thread that can lead us through the inextricable paths of her domain, toward her primal and final mysteries. Irrelevant quotation is, from gods to men, from worlds to atoms, from a star to a rushlight, from the sun to the vital heat of the meanest organic being. The world of form and existence is an immense chain, whose links are all connected. The law of analogy is the first key to the world problem, and these links have to be studied coordinately in their occult relations to each other. The law of analogy of the secret doctrine speaks of manifestation proceeding from within without, refers to the Hermetic axiom of, as above so below, and in full measure correlates cosmos to atom, and clearly shows the interdependence of noumena to phenomena, archetypes to types. The law of analogy and correspondence, the application of the Hermetic axiom, the correct use of induction-deduction, bring the reader the opportunity of correlating knowledge in all its branches and aspects. By and under such treatment, astronomy and embryology can be studied together. Atoms and solar systems move by identical processes. Human body and cosmos are closely knit. Physics and physiology harmonize with biology and psychology. Theology, mythology, mysticism and ethics become practical and inspiring. Mathematics and metaphysics, astrology and alchemy, blend in harmony. Science, religion, philosophy reveal themselves as languages sprung from a common rootstock. The synthesis called the wisdom religion Theosophy. When a student encounters the innumerable branches of science and schools of philosophy treated in the pages of the secret doctrine, their varying doctrines correlated, their faults shown and removed, their merits assigned proper places in the scheme of things universal, he gains confidence in his own power of intelligence. The aim of this work is thus stated in its preface, to show that nature is not a fortuitous concurrence of atoms, and to assign to man his rightful place in the scheme of the universe. to rescue from degradation the archaic truths which are the basis of all religions, and to uncover, to some extent, the fundamental unity from which they all spring, finally to show that the occult side of nature has never been approached by the science of modern civilization. Preface also says that the book is written in service of humanity, and by humanity and the future generations it must be judged. According to Blavatsky, the stanzas form the basis of the present work. They give an abstract formula which can be applied, mutatis mutandis, to all evolution, to that of our tiny Earth, to that of the chain of planets of which that Earth forms one, to the solar universe to which that chain belongs, and so on, in an ascending scale, till the mind reels unexhausted in the effort. The 7 stanzas given in first volume represent the 7 terms of abstract formula. They refer to, and describe the 7 great stages of the evolutionary process, which are spoken of in the Puranas as the 7 creations and in the Bible as the days of creation. 8pg says, it must be left to the intuition and higher faculties of the reader to grasp, as far as he can, the meaning of the allegorical phrases used. Indeed, it must be remembered that all these stanzas appeal to the inner faculties rather than an ordinary comprehension of the physical brain. The deeper layer of the human mind has to be brought into use if the secret doctrine is to be comprehended to any appreciable extent. We evolve as we learn, not only knowing what is taught but gaining the faculty to know more that which is not written or expressed, that which lies between the lines and within words. In grasping the ideas put forward and of those which underlie, the first care should be taken not to mistake personifications for personalities or to materialize abstractions, because the latter have already assumed a little of concreteness. Planes of consciousness are not spheres of matter, hierarchies of beings are not always individualized intelligences, karma is an abstract force and not a personal devil or god. It is necessary to proceed from fundamental principles. The mastering of postulates and axioms should precede the attempt at solving problems and theorems. 1 fundamental law, 4 basic ideas, 5 proven facts, 3 new propositions and conclusion given in the book, constitute, so to say, the foundation of the esoteric philosophy treated in the book exhaustively. Hence these must be studied and comprehended before undertaking detailed study of the subjects treated in the book and also the book as a whole. 1 fundamental law enunciated in the book is, the radical unity of the ultimate essence of each constituent part of compound in nature, from star to mineral atom, from the highest Dwan-Chohan to the smallest infusoria, in the fullest acceptance of the term, and whether applied to the spiritual, intellectual or physical worlds. This unity is the 1 fundamental law in occult science. This teaching of the fundamental unity is the hallmark of the system and has to be kept in the back of mind while considering details and parts. There are 4 things students may discover as they pursue their studies. First, the secret doctrine indicates that by comparing the cosmogonies of the ancients, we can discover what is truly universal in them. Second, the book gives a clue to unraveling the genuine history of humankind. Third, it lifts the veil of allegory and symbol from the myths and scriptures of antiquity to reveal the beauty of truth. Finally, the secret doctrine presents to the eager intellect, to the intuition, and to the developed spiritual perception, the scientific secrets of the universe. To study the secret doctrine in its fullness, to enter creatively into the encounter with immortal wisdom, is to come to DBB's work with open heart and mind, seeking what has been sought by the wise ones through the ages, following the injunction given by DBB herself, follow not me nor my path, but the path I show, which leads to the masters. By getting synthesized comprehension of the facts brought out in the secret doctrine, the student is a lead towards the truth. Then the student is helped in realizing that there is no religion higher than truth.
following striking and inspiring passage from the Secret Doctrine provides us the graphic and grand description of the spiritual realm as it opens to the trained vision of a true seer.
What is said there is true for us humble folk whose enthusiasm and aspiration bring us the vision splendid as we delve within the pages of this inspiring book. Standing on an open plain, on a mountain summit especially, and on gazing into the vast vault above and the special infinitudes around, the whole atmosphere seems ablaze with them, the air soaked through with these dazzling coruscations. At times, the intensity of their motion produces flashes like the northern lights during the aurora borealis. The sight is so marvelous, that, as the seer gazes into this inner world, and feels the scintillating points shoot past him, he is filled with awe at the thought of other, still greater mysteries, that lie beyond, and within, this radiant ocean. Further following matter from last two paragraphs of volume 2 is significant as it brings out the limited nature and scope of the work, reasons for such limitation, what has been accomplished, and also the possibility of getting more knowledge in future. These two volumes had to serve as a prologue, and prepare the reader's mind for those which shall now follow. Our explanations are by no means complete, nor do they pretend to give out full text. Our main concern was to prepare the soul. This, we trust we have done. A commencement has been made to fell and uproot the deadly upas trees of superstition, prejudice, and conceited ignorance, so that these two volumes should form for the student a fitting prelude for volumes 3 and 4. Until the rubbish of the ages is cleared away from the minds of the Theosophists to whom these volumes are dedicated, it is impossible that the more practical teaching contained in the 3rd volume should be understood. Consequently, it entirely depends upon the reception with which volumes 1st and 2nd will meet at the hand of Theosophists and mystics, whether these last two volumes will ever be published, though they are almost completed. Although in the last sentence Madame Blavatsky refers to further almost completed volumes 3rd and 4th, no manuscript material answering to such a description has been found. Some papers left by her were published in 1893 by Annie Besant as volume 3rd, also as volume 5th of the 6-volume ADR edition published in 1938. A portion of the matter of volume 5th of the 6-volume ADR edition, titled The Same Papers on the Bearing of Occult Philosophy on Life, is now published by TFI in a separate book named Esoteric Instructions, by H.P. Blavatsky, and which is compiled by Michael Gomez.
Thank you very much.
And the next speaker of the seminar is the Doctor of Statistical Science, member of the London Theosophical Society, Mrs. Taposhri Ganguly, Great Britain, London. You're welcome, please.
Thank you.
Please.
A very good morning to everybody from London. I'm grateful for this space that I have been asked to share today. Hi. My name is Taposhri, also known as Taps. I'm a statistician by profession. My approach to Theosophy is also statistical, given my years of training. I came to Theosophy with prior beliefs. I updated those beliefs in the light of evidence, which in this case were my own experiences. At a very personal level, I do not find anything different in the work that I do to the individual that I am, to what I am and what I have become or am becoming. I live a life based on a philosophy which I was perhaps born with, which is called Neti Neti, which means I live impersonally and I do not have any strong associations with anyone or anything, because my identity with this body is as impermanent as it has previously been, and what is it going to be in the future. Today, I have put together a few slides, not to bore you, but to try and give you an idea as to how statistically most sequence of events of our lives, the life that we live, actually is a 0-1 game. And I won't go deep into the mathematics of the numbers or proofs, but I will try and tap into the ideas that axiomatically add value to some of the text from the Secret Doctrine. I hope, like me, whatever discipline you choose to study or make your career in, you remain guided by these large matrices of ancient wisdom that surround life. The title is The Life That We Live and Theosophy, and I've just put this title on. So absolute with a small a to absolute with a capital A, a statistical perspective. If you assume, or let's assume, that the capital theta denotes the absolute with a capital A, small thetas are the realizations of the capital theta. Now, those of you who are mathematicians or physicists, I know you understand what realizations are. What happens is, statistically, these small thetas will also have their own sample properties and distributions, and they are assumed to reflect the capital theta. Statistically, if we were to put every individual with their own realization, like small theta subset I, we tend to the statement by Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, which is, it is the sum totals that exist from eternity in the future and pass by degrees through matter to exist for eternity in the past. Now, it's also written very beautifully by HPB that the real person or thing does not consist solely of what is seen at any particular moment, but is compared to the sum of all its various and changing conditions from its appearance in the totals. What this means is that all these conditions that we go through in life, they are all derived conditions, and they all are surrounding this realization, our perception of the small theta, which also comes, if you're familiar with the measure theory, they come with their own properties, they come with their own functional forms, they come with their own scientific properties, they come with their own set of parameters. Each space can have its own condition, and each space is a subset of a set. Coming to the present day, the condition that I would touch upon is COVID-19. COVID-19 gave this world a bigger impact of working from home and brought around a lot of other things, but working from home became a big phenomena. The world witnessed a substantial change in the working conditions. It became the new norm. There were changes in motivations and various psychological states of human beings. Forbes magazine in August 2020 reported that work from home is disliked and is bad for employees. It gave a statistic of 42% respondents said that the stress levels were very high. Harvard Business Review published a study in March leading and listing out effective ways to manage the psychological and mental stress for people working from home. They said they needed to connect more, they needed to have routines, they needed to have boundaries, and they needed to have sufficient breaks in order to be able to function properly. So now let's get to my cookbook. I have two cookbooks, A and B. What I have done is, what HPB said is, she touched upon these ever-changing conditions, the sum totals of these conditions, and if we mathematically express them, if we say that they are coming from minus infinity to plus infinity, and the ever-changing conditions are represented by Cj, then that's a summation of all the realizations of the small theta subset Cj. So what it means in words is, a partial sum of an infinite series is a finite number of consecutive terms beginning with the first term. In other words, if you're born Death is an absolute surety. So it's the life that you live, is the life from the day you're born to the day you die for a human body in that particular finite space. So the finite space for this particular talk, if you like, that I've put it as the COVID-19 with the impact study of working from home, conditioned to boundaries, breaks, routines, and many other conditions that will lend us a partial sum of the year 2020 and beyond of our lives. Although the infections and the stress levels intensify and rise significantly or grow exponentially in each step, the impact of all of it on an individual will always be finite, not infinite. And that is the 0-1 law. So let's put a hypothesis forward, which is, let's say these present day conditions have no significant impact in your being. Now we're talking about, when we talk about a human, there's always a human being. So this whole concept of being, and you've heard Erika and you've heard Pandey, Mr. Pandey before me, who were talking about this entire aspect of being. So this is the first line is a mathematical statement, which I'm just going to read out. And this is something that I've picked up from literature. It's a very well-known lemma in mathematics. It's called the Burel-Canterli lemma. Now, what this lemma literally says is this, that in probability theory, any sequence of events, a partial converse of this Burel-Canterli lemma also states that under certain conditions, an event of that sequence is either going to be, it's going to have a probability 0 or it's going to have a probability 1. Now, being driven by experience and being an experience that is completely beyond the senses are two completely different things. So here, being can be divided into two different states. But we also go back to Theosophy and to the Secret Doctrine, which states that beingness, becoming, and being are one. Life is progressive, hence the summation, whether you look at it from birth, if you count it as 0, or if you look at your reincarnations and past lives and everything and go into minus infinity, 2 plus infinity. The goal is always to tend to, oneness, or the capital theta, through realizations, through these little small thetas, conditioned to different conditions and subjective to different states. So regardless of the sequence that make up the space, could be random, could be environmental, could be political, whatever is happening in your life at this moment, your life going in future, it all tends to infinity. The events similar to the conditions become rather inconsequential in your being or in your beingness, if you like. So coming to my cookbook 2, which is cookbook B, beingness, symbolized in the Secret Doctrine, is under 2 aspects. Absolute, a small a, is the abstract space, which is the small theta. And the other absolute, the capital A, is the abstract motion representing the unconditioned consciousness, or the capital theta. Now recall the hypothesis and the proposition. Based on that, it can be safely concluded that if beingness aspect 1, which is the small absolute, which is the small theta, tends to 0, it has no significant impact. So what we are left with is the unconditioned consciousness, or the capital theta. Further, it is this capital theta that each of us tend to through our realizations, or in other words, that is what we become. And I would leave you with this beautiful quote from the Secret Doctrine, volume 2, page 449. Asat is not merely the negation of Sat, nor is it the not yet existing. For Sat is in itself neither the existent nor being. Sat is the immutable, the ever-present, changeless, and eternal root from and through which all proceeds. But it is far more than the potential force in the seed which propels onward the process of development or what is now called evolution. It is the ever becoming through the never manifesting. On that note, I would like to thank Anne, Petra, Erika, Eddie, Lyndon, Virginia for dealing with all my questions, and everybody at the Blavatsky Lodge London Study Circle, and everyone at the European School of Theosophy for their unconditional love, support, and my deepest gratitude to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, dear Ms. Tapashri. It was a very comprehensive report. Welcome to our research platform, Mr. Ramprakash, United Lodge of Theosophists of India, Bangalore, India.
The three propositions are the three aspects of one truth. In them we discern answers to three questions: God, law, being. What is God? How did the universe come into existence? Why, for what purpose? Truth of the propositions are self-evident and self-validating. Study and meditation on the axioms purifies the mind and energizes the heart with devotion. Implicit truth of universal brotherhood becomes explicit to our consciousness. Everything is life, consciousness, and intelligence. Myriad life forms, forces and beings are phenomenal aspects of one life. Universality of the law of cycles. Universe appear and disappear in the boundless plane of absoluteness in regular succession. All souls or monads are fundamentally identical with the universal oversoul. Obligatory pilgrimage of every monad through all forms from the lowest to the highest. Progress of monads through lower kingdoms of nature is by natural impulse. Progress of monads after reaching human kingdom is by self-effort alone, checked by karma. There are no special gifts or favors conferred on man except that which is won by him by his own effort through cycles of metempsychosis and reincarnation. All beings are same in kind but differ in degree of soul development. Study of the three fundamental propositions together with the pith and marrow of occultism given in 6 axioms in the summing up chapter of the Secret Doctrine is very essential.
Dear Mr. Ramprakash, thank you for your interesting presentation. And the following presentation of the material
The
on the
next will
prologue
be
of the
Vladimir Yarek
Secret Doctrines
from
is
Moscow.
by the president of the Lodge Adaman, Mr. Vladimir Yarek, Russia,
Dear
Moscow.
friends, I would like to start with the thought of the day.
Дело в том, что в сегодняшнем дне присутствует мысль, данная из «Жемчужины Востока» Елены Петровны Блаватской. Она дает ее на каждый день. И вот на сегодня...
And he reads the quote from the germs from the east.
Когда свинцовые тучи сталкиваются друг с другом, волшебное сияние небес меркнет. Вот можно сказать, что
HPB in Prologue starts to clarify our consciousness.
Она как раз и начинает очищать этот небосклон.
Two clouds, when they come together,
Потому что встречаются
clarify each other by thunder and lightning.
И они связаны с тем, что желает тот либо другой человек.
People who encounter each other become clear, more clear, purifying. So HPB starts her dialogue with the reader in symbolic language, presenting a logical sequence from Pralaya, inhale, and Manvantara, exhale. Symbolically is given in the book of Dhyan. He reveals the concept of ancient science and occult philosophy through representation in the symbolic
Согласно
form.
символическому языку, человек-ученик
According to that
должен
symbolic language, a student
абстрагироваться
must
от
abstract
религиозных
from the
соображений,
religious dogmas of
признав
modern
свое
times
невежество и предубежден,
by admitting his
и только в
ignorance
этом
and
случае он
prejudice,
готов для восприятия
and
и
only in
понимания
this case he is
учения.
ready to accept and understand the
Нет
teaching.
религии выше истины. Эта формула заложена. В этой формуле заложен
There is no religion higher than truth.
понимание действительности.
This formula contains a deep
Учения
understanding
были
of
выбраны
reality.
и перенесены человечеству конечными
The
существами,
teachings were issued
имеющие
and brought to
наименования
humanity
такие как
by finite
Будда,
beings
Будды, Хьян,
with
Коды,
names such as
Риши,
Hyani
Праджапати,
Buddhas, Hyan Chohans,
планетарные духи и так далее, в
Rishis,
зависимости
Prajapati,
от той или
planetary
иной
spirits,
религиозной школы.
etc.,
К ним относится
but
и
never
учение
from the
Блаватского,
unmanifested one life.
то есть к этим конечным существам. И она
These
единственная,
teachers include H.P.
так
H.P.
пересказывает
Blavatsky.
Джиан.
He was the only one who knew. So there is a book of Jan
На черном
is laying in front of her, and on the first page there is a white disc on a black background.
далее появляется линия горизонтальная,
On the second page there is the same disc, but with a dot in the center, then a line, horizontal diameter appears. Then it becomes a vertical line, and the shape of a cross appears.
форма жизни в ее периодичности.
This is the symbol of the cycles.
Изображением
Following these images, we draw them and apply a description of their
смысловое значение понятия.
meaning concepts.
Первое представляет
The first
космос
concept represents the cosmos in eternity,
перед новым пробуждением
before the new awakening
дремлющей
of the still dormant energy,
последующей.
the emanation of the universe in the subsequent systems.
Это круг с точкой,
The point in the cycle, yet unsullied.
пространство и вечность в состоянии пролая.
Space and eternity in the state of pralaya
В мировом яйце есть зародыш,
indicates the dawn of differentiation.
разовьется во Вселенную, во всесущее, в
This
беспредельное,
point
периодически,
in the universal egg is the germ within it,
являющееся периодическим,
which will develop into the universe,
действенным.
into all things,
Единый круг
into
есть
the boundless,
единство,
periodic
куда всё исходит и
cosmos.
куда всё возвращается. Следуя этим объяснениям, мы
A germ
описываем круг
that is periodic
образно
is sometimes hidden and sometimes effective.
площадь круга. Необходимо
The one
предусмотреть,
circle
что
is the divine unity,
относительный символ, силу,
from which everything comes and to which everything returns.
отвлеченное, вечно непознаваемое присутствие. А его площадь
Following these explanations, we enter a point into the cycle figuratively,
тем, что
imaginatively,
площадь круга белая,
a point into the area of this circle.
окружающая
It must be assumed that its
ясно
circumference,
этот план
a forced relative symbol due to the limitation of the human mind,
единственным доступным человеку.
presupposes an abstract, eternally unknowable presence,
Свободу мышления,
and its area is the universal soul,
состояние
although both are one.
ума, дисциплины, другими
The fact that only the area of the circle is white, while the entire surrounding plane is black, clearly indicates that this plane, however dim and hazy it may still be, is the only knowledge available to human.
следуя за указаниями
The preface requires from the student freedom of thought, that is, a state of meditative calmness of mind,
дисциплина духа,
discipline, in other words,
возьмем
the ability not to dive into the processes of the
через принятие
senses
понимания
organs,
учения Маха.
which are emotions. The entire learning process is based on the ability of student not to miss a subtle sequence, following the instructions of the teacher. This discipline comes from the appreciation and reverence to the teacher.
Так происходит
Discipline of the spirit educates the heart. Let us take the consistent action of our obedience by accepting and understanding of that, what is said in the teaching of Mahatmas. The circle is a symbol of the will, symbolized the wheel of time, or Kalachakra, or the cyclicity of evolutionary movements, as described in the prologue. First a circle, then a point, then a diameter. In this way, differentiation over one space happens, and time and cycles appear. Thus, Kalachakra arises. As long as a person doesn't feel the cycle with a variety of combinations of one element in the plentitude, displaying Maya in his consciousness, in all its reality of ignorance, the will not steadily through the labyrinth of existence. Therefore, experience is necessary, work in overcoming obstacles to temper the spirit. So when the book of Dhyan reveals the concept of unity, it assumes the direction of the driving force of life from the source, the absolute truth. There is no creator, but there are creative forces in the universal soul, which radiates hierarchical sequence of creators and formative divine forces minds, as the formatic power of the sun of the space of light. Light, Christ, Buddha, or divine man, all about the creative potential that periodically implements the program of the idea of the evolution of divine thought in the Manvantaric day of Brahma. Parabrahma in the veils of Mula Prakriti is similar to human consciousness in the veils of Maya, the seven-veiled breath of the One. If we have decided to know the true self, then renunciation of the self is necessary. Every self is an illusion, for there is no unity in it, leading to the unity that is the state of I, or Atma Buddhi. Proceeding with the symbolism, let's draw the diameter in the circle. This is our world of the fourth circle, as an evolutionary development of consciousness. The human spirit, symbolizing the separation of the sexes or time itself. Let's take this as a given condition for the development of consciousness. Our task is to remain in the creative motive of unity, which is not an easy task. That is to study and execute the orders of the teachers, here and now. The symbol of unity is a circle. The ray in the circle is the creative power of Fohat, cosmic electricity. This ray is in the highest tension, so the same tension is required from the disciple, and it will be possible only when facing obstacles caused by the state of humanity in general and by the disciple of particular. For this purpose, it is necessary to know the law of justice and the cosmic scale, and only by executing the decrees according to the law of advisability can the disciple unite that separateness of spirit and matter by the synthesis of his thinking, or the fire of aspiration. As a result, we come to the method of expanding consciousness, which develops abstract thinking, through which we can study the secret doctrine, since this work couldn't be comprehended by intuition only. This work could be comprehended by intuition only. Kalachakra is the teaching of Shambhala, presented by H.P. Blavatsky through the secret doctrine, is the highest knowledge on earth. Mahatma M. said, "I welcome the collectors of the Kalachakra." The prologue of the secret doctrine brings us to this statement. Kalachakra allows us to live correctly with the thought of the day during a day. 12 hours of light, which is day, and 12 hours of darkness, which is night, gives us 24 hours, 2 laps of 60 nidanas, which is 2 laps makes 120 nidanas. 120 is 1 plus 2 plus, which equals 3. 0 at the end is the symbol of the cycle. And there is the essence of the necessity of the thought evolution in the cycle. If we learn to think, to meditate, then the right meditation is the one that doesn't think, because in order to think, you must learn how not to think, as you thought before.
Many thanks for the interesting
I
report and
suggest
your
we consider
ideas.
this idea of Kalachakra
And
on the next
undoubtedly, they
seminar.
will give food for
Thank you very
thought
much.
to all participants of the seminar. And now my name is Evgenia Shaburnikova. I'm the Vice President of the Adamant Lodge of the Theosophical Society of Russia, Project Coordinator of the Theosophy Foundation for promotion of social, significant and educational activity. And my material is 3 fundamental propositions of the secret doctrine. In the prologue, we have the entire structure of the 2 volumes of the secret doctrine and 3 fundamental propositions. The first proposition is an eternal principle, boundless and immutable, about which no reasoning is possible because it exceeds the powers of human understanding. Then HPB writes, there is a single absolute reality that precedes all manifested and conditional entity. It is an infinite and eternal cause. It's being, it's not being. Genesis is represented as follows. On the one hand, the absolute abstract space, and on the other, absolute abstract movement. It seems that everything is clear, but until we consider such abstract concepts as the space, breathing, and movement specifically, they will be abstract for us. The planes of being will help us, because they are a sevenfold system that are identical in both the manifested and non-manifested worlds. Let's consider the whole septenary as a skeleton or foundation, or the basis of understanding the world, according to the planes of being. 3 unmanifested planes, or the plane of the spirit beyond forms, the single, the second the plane of gods, and the third the plane of the spirit. Then there is the plane of prototypes, where the unmanifested gathers and where the manifested comes from. Then 3 manifested planes, the plane of mind and creativity, physical and educational plane, and physical plane. What is absolute abstract space? 3 unmanifested planes. And in this space there is already an absolute abstract movement, which is the cause of everything that will be manifested on the lower 4 planes. Let's see how it manifests. The first 7-ray star on the plane of the gods appears as the second 7-ray star on the plane of mind and creativity. Here, light is born, and sound, and the initial cause of the sevenfold. The triangle on the plane of spirit is the concentrations of the first 3 higher forces, or fire. It manifests or becomes dual on the material and the educational plane, and we see the tetragrammaton. The plane of prototypes manifests images on the physical plane. That is, subjects become objects, as you see according to the line. Any exoteric and esoteric understanding can be applied to the planes of being, and thus we can reveal any symbol or concept. Let's look at the space. HPB answers the questions, as Erika has told about it. What is that which is one and externally exists? The answer is the space. What is that which has always existed, that which was one? The answer is embryo or germ at the root. What is that which eternally comes and goes? The answer is the great breath. Then, do there exist the three eternals? The answer is no. The three are one. That which is always one, that which has always been is one, and that which eternally exists and is revealed is also one, and this is the space. Let's see the three unmanifested planes. The space. The triangle on the plane of the spirit is the embryo or the germ at the root. The point on the plane of the prototypes is the great breath, is always coming and going. All this is the one eternity. If there were no space, there would be no embryo or germ and no breath. These three can coexist only together. If you exclude one thing, there wouldn't be any possibility of manifestation of the form. Consequently, the three, fused together, must inevitably fall into the form of the fourth state, thus revealing the great sevenfold of movement. The great Plato called the planets as gods, the movement of the planets as breath of God. When do planets appear, and when does their movement appear? According to the planes of being, as soon as the first exhalation of space occurs, 7 planets appear, which are the single organism, and that is the cosmic mind. It is one and sevenfold at the same time. From this point on, movement or breathing or differentiation begins. That is, gods on the plane of or the plane of gods, and their movement is the plane moving and minor creativity. And now let's consider the great breath. The exhalation of the unknowable entity gives birth to the world, and the inhalation causes to disappear. Light in the dark and darkness in the light. How can we understand this? We can't understand it unless we feel it in ourselves, like light and fire. As Helen Röhrig writes in Agni Yoga, fire can crystallize, but its normal state is light. And only the space breath contains lights. How does the breath move along the planes of being? Or how does the light move? And HPB gives the answer to us. It comes from the outside in, when it is everywhere, and from the inside out, when it is nowhere. Outside in is the first 3 planes of spirit out of forms. From the inside out, the 4 manifested planes. And they are contained in the middle on the plane of the prototypes. In its absoluteness, the single principle, its 2 aspects of Parabrahman and Mulak Prakriti, has no gender, unconditional and eternal. But how to feel it, how to imagine it? Also, the planes of being will help us in this. Brahman is the collective totality of the cosmos in its infinity and eternity. That and this. How to understand that and this? Unless we see it on the planes of being, we can't see it. The collective totality of the cosmos is infinity and eternity. Therefore, infinity is that, or the absence of ego, and eternity is this, that which is calculated. It's already this, and the ego is present here. And in the secret doctrine, HPB gives calculation of eternity. 311, 040, and 9 zeros. That is unmanifested, and this is the manifested. On the basis of the planes of being, the understanding of correspondence has come, and that is the theme on which I suggest you think about before the next workshop. Next, we shall see the three fundamental propositions of secret doctrine, how they correspond to three aspects of absolute. Let's think about it. The first aspect is abstract space, which is on the manifested planes, becomes the mother giving birth and outgoing being. Abstract space is eternal unconditional principle, beingness. It's the three higher planes of being. And the second aspect is duration, which becomes time, revealing periodicity on the four planes manifested. The third aspect is the great breath. It becomes life. That is, when the great breath makes inhale, exhale, the life wind, and identity manifests itself, and the life manifested light is exhale on the lower planes. The union of these three is the birth of a force of a movement or manifestation. As soon as the three merge into a single state, this state is ready to manifest. So, in such a simple formula, which was given by HPB in the prologue, we can notice a system or identical law, which is described in detail in 2 volumes of the CD. Thank you for your attention. Thank you, Eugene, for your report. Dear friends, I'd like that everybody, all of us, should express gratitude to the speakers, Mr. Un-Hak Hwang, Mrs. Garguli, Mr. Pandey, thank you. Mr. Luke Ironside, thank you. Miss Erika Georgiades, thank you. Arni Narendran, thank you. Mr. Ramprakash, thank you. Ritva Lapi, thank you very much. And I see that the people from the Philippines were to join us. I believe they hear us. And Mrs. Kelly, we thank you. And the professor of the St. Petersburg Polytechnical University, Sergei Pavlovich, thank you. Vladimir Yary, Mr. Pavel Malakhov, the president of the Theosophical Society of Russia, Kemerova, thank you. Mr. Kolganov Sergei, Moscow Aviation Institute, Russia, thank you. I ask all the members of the research group, you can express your point of view about this seminar. If anybody wants to speak about, please. That Ritva Lape, please.
Thank you all. This is wonderful day. Because I have to quote just, I want to say something everybody, because I thank you, just gentleman from America, he told Buddhist idea, and I think so, because I think so, HPP is, or Tibet's talk, it's very important that we can see this view also. This is very warm thank you to him. And second, this professor from South Korea maybe, it's very interested because there is only some words and symbolic, because mathematics of thing of science, and I think so when we understand something deep level, maybe we don't need so much words, maybe use only symbolic, and then we understand more. We don't maybe use symbolic, no words. It's on other level, and I think I want to say thank you, very nice. How can I say few? And three, there is Mr. from India, but there is, we can get more text maybe, because it's end before. And then Dr. Taps, it's your name, Taps. You are a lovely lady, very nice with you. I knew first time, and because you are very high level knowledge, but same times you are very clear view for what maybe mean absolute big A. Thank you very much. And then there is, I don't find more, but now understand more my friend Rasan lady and Mr. Because now is English or text, it's very nice. And then I want to say, this is my regards to all. We can speak a lot of different phenomena, but there is only phenomena. But what is our phenomena? It's most important. I think so, unity, and what is HPB want to say? We don't need so much, maybe sometimes knowledge, much we need so much compassion and understand what really mean brotherhood. And this is my heart regards to all. And I'm so glad that world is one, and we have contact by Zoom and so on. And we can share all this, and we can know all what is candle, every atom, but candle is, yes, shy all, lot of my heart.
Great, thanks to you, Mr. Ritva. We give much thanks to all the participants of the seminar. We don't say goodbye, but please write us. You see the email address here. See you on the next seminar in October. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you.
See you on the next seminar.
And thanks to all of you, and very wonderful to listen to your presentations, and very, very uplifting and refreshing and very informative. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Very enlightening seminar. I got disconnected, no problem.
And it was interesting for me to listen to you, Mr. Mullin.
That was technological problems. So we'll meet again on that. Thank you. Very noble effort you are taking.
Yes, we are in touch. We'll keep in touch, and we see each other in October. I'll write by all means.
That be on proem, is
Next
it?
time we also speak on the prologue, on the
Yes.
proem.
Okay, good. Thank you. Very, very important section of the secret doctrine proem.
Thank you, everybody, for your deep
Thank you.
research.
Thank you.
Mr. Pandey, thank you very much. Great thanks
Thank
to
you.
you.
Thank you.
We'll be waiting for your whole article.
Okay, I'll be happy to join. I'll be happy to join.
We'll be waiting for Theosophical Vector with this article. We will be waiting for the continuation of this topic with Anna Kelly and other scientists who will give a deep analysis. And by all means, we'll begin to study the prologue, the proem.
Yes.
Great thanks to everybody. We try to suggest you how it would be better to continue our seminar so that it would be more interesting. We think we shall find understanding, and now many thanks, light and love to everybody, and goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.